sport has the power to change the world.
Imagine being mentored by one of your biggest sporting heroes. That's a dream come true for a lot more young people here in South Africa, thanks to a great new initiative. Also, for a second, imagine you've grown up in an impoverished area, and through the sport you love, you're offered the opportunity to attend one of the world's premier events. Well, that's what the power of sport does, and that's the opportunity that it affords one. Welcome to this episode of the podcast, a series of real-life stories illustrating the impact that sport is having in effecting positive change here in South Africa and indeed across the world. Coming up, I speak to two not only Springbok legends but global household rugby names. I chat to Bryan Habana about his foundation and the deep roots it's setting in South Africa, as well as Jean de Villiers, who will be joining a group of young rugby players on the trip of a lifetime to the Hong Kong Sevens. I'm Jean Smyth, your host. Thank you for downloading this episode. If you found this for the first time, please subscribe via iTunes and Omni Radio, and you can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, and on Instagram. Well, Saturday, the 3rd of February 2018, is a day that a group of youngsters from Cape Town will remember for the rest of their lives. Sure, there'll be moments in time that will trump it, but as the start of a journey, not just about rugby, but about life. At the Zando Cape Town Tens, two former Springbok captains, Corne Krige and Jean de Villiers, both Laureus ambassadors, had a memorable first-hand experience in showcasing the power of sport. They capped 12 youngsters who will be heading to the upcoming Hong Kong Sevens for simply the time of their lives. Jean, if you could just take yourself back to perhaps a first big rugby trip that you went on, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. It's not too long ago, but can you put yourself in the shoes of these youngsters going to Hong Kong and what it might mean to them from a rugby and a life experience?
Look, it was about 18, 19 years ago that I went on my first overseas trip, and that was for the SA Under-19 team, and we travelled to Wales. A massive experience, and just the ability to be able to go overseas and experience something different was huge. I think the fact that before that I travelled locally quite a bit, so you're used to flying, whereas I think it's very different for these kids. For a lot of them it will be their first time flying, and it might put them off flying totally because it's quite a big trip to eventually get to Hong Kong. So it really will be a life-changing opportunity for them. It was in my case, and hopefully for them it could be the same.
You've had some time now to reflect on that capping ceremony, always an emotional occasion. You've been through any number of those types of ceremonies. Just how do you reflect back on that day now?
It really is special. It's very difficult to put yourself in their shoes because the background is so different and the landscape is so different. And I think you almost want to be able to tell them that just make everything you can of this opportunity. Use everything you can. Steal as much as you can with your eyes. And really embrace it because it really can change your life. Life as such is all about opportunities, and a lot of people go through all of their lives and they never get the opportunity to really make a substantial difference to their circumstances. These 12 kids, they get that, and hopefully they can just embrace it and make use of it, because the chances of getting another opportunity like that is very, very slim.
One of the lucky 12 is Ayabonga from Masiphumelele.
I'm quite happy at the same time. It's going to be my first time going overseas and being on a plane.
When you found out that you might be in line for this trip, can you just describe your emotion at that actual moment?
I was happy. I felt like I was gonna jump a mountain.
And who are some of the people that you're looking forward to seeing in Hong Kong?
South Africa and the other Sevens players.
Who's your rugby hero growing up?
Bryan Habana.
What do you like most about Bryan?
Speed, his stabbing, how he communicates with other players.
Well, rather apt that his hero is one Bryan Habana, because later on we'll be hearing from the Bok Fly as he tells us about the latest news from his foundation. But a final word then for de Villiers, who'll be among a host of the biggest names in the game that the likes of Ayabonga will rub shoulders with. not only mixing with yourself, a legend of the game, but they're going to be mixing with some of the game's biggest names. You know, Brian O'Driscoll, Sean Fitzpatrick. It's quite a special occasion and environment.
Yeah, and I almost think that is totally on the side. You know, for them to be able to have access to famous world rugby names, that's a small part of what they will be able to experience. For me, it's the life experience, and for me, it's exactly what Laureus tries to teach, is that it's the life skills that you learn through sport. That's what will help you in life outside of school, outside of rugby, outside of sport. And for them to be able to interact with the kids from Operation Breakthrough in Hong Kong, that'll be an eye-opener for them as well. Because a lot of those kids might come from much worse circumstances than our kids. So there you'll also see that it's all very, debatable as to what is bad and what is good. Yes, it'll be great, and hopefully they can learn a lot from O'Driscoll and from Sean and all those guys. But it's more, I think, the interaction, the life experience that they will get, which will really, really, really be a fantastic opportunity for them to learn. So it is so exciting, and I'm very, very humbled to actually be a part of this.
What would 35-year-old Jean de Villiers, give or take a year or two?
I don't know. I'll have to go back a couple of years. No.
What piece of advice would Jean de Villiers today have given to a 15 or 16-year-old Jean de Villiers?
Exactly that. Really embrace the situation. I remember when I played on the 7th Circuit and I was 19 years old, and you travelled all around the world, and it was, and yes, in a way, I think it's a positive as well, but I was so focused on just the rugby and just making that work that I didn't actually experience all the places that we went to. And everything that I could have learned there. So for these kids, that's exactly what I would say. Enjoy it. Sleep as little as you can. Make use of every opportunity you get to see things, to taste new things, to try and speak to foreign people, try and experience something different every day, and learn and listen to the people and the mentors that you'll be in contact with, because those sort of nuggets of knowledge, or whatever you want to call it, that's what gets you through life and what gets you through difficult circumstances. The reality is they will change. This trip will not only change their lives, it'll also change the lives of their community, their families, and hopefully they can really impact their families by what they learn on this trip. So it's very exciting.
From one Springbok legend to another this episode then. Not reliving their playing days, which spanned over 200 test matches, but rather about what they're able to give back to the game that gave them so much. Bryan Habana's career has been defined by many factors, but always punctuated by a valuable self-awareness of the privilege his talent has afforded him. And as such, a need to give back to the game is something that's always come easily. His global foundation has firmly established roots here in South Africa, and very excitingly, 8 youngsters spent time in Stellenbosch earlier this year as they enter a program that will change their lives. Gita Carroll, social design strategist, set up Team Habana in Cape Town.
It's almost like coming home for Bryan and coming home for the Team Habana concept. So we launched it at the Stellenbosch Academy of Sport in the first week of Feb, SAS, as most people know it, which was the most incredible venue to host these 8 young people. We chose young leaders between the age of 16 and 22 from sport for development programs within the Western Cape or Cape Town area. We fortunately recruited through the Laureus recruitment process because, as we know, Laureus is the leader within the sport for development sector in South Africa and in Cape Town. So seeing that Bryan was a Laureus ambassador and quite an avid supporter of Laureus, and Laureus always supporting Bryan, we thought that would be a good strategic partnership. So we recruited 8 young recruits. Needless to say that the applicants flew in. We had lots of exciting, eager young people that applied, and we tried to choose have a variation of 8 young people that could kind of represent the Team Habana concept. We gave them 4 questions, which they had to answer on a video, on a vlog, which we then sent over to Bryan, and then within the management team and Bryan, we then handpicked the 8 young people. So last week we got together, we had the leadership program, which was designed by the Change Foundation. The Change Foundation runs and designed Team Habana in the UK on behalf of the Bryan Habana Foundation. So they're a critical part of Team Habana. So they delivered and designed a great leadership course. The young people went through that over 3 days with our excellent facilitator, who's a local guy, Lukman Ismail from Coolplay, which is one of our top rugby, netball, sport development organizations in the Western Cape. He was a critical factor who led the leaders, and he'll be the main mentor for the young people on behalf of Bryan. As we know, Bryan is still in France at the moment, but the leaders will have constant interaction with Bryan. We said goodbye to them on the Friday, where they go back to their respective communities now, which varies from Plutusville, Stellenbosch, Kells River, Lavendale, etc., where they now have to design 100 hours community give back program. So it can be social give back, youth give back, community give back, and with them we will in a way hold their hand, but with lots of freedom, see how they now give back what they've learned in their respective communities. So because it's still a new program, we're taking it baby steps, and we really believe in organic and authentic growth. So we've got a concrete plan for these young people, but we're also going to see what happens when they go back to the communities, what they need, and what it looks like once they're home.
Now, you've obviously been involved in this environment for a long time, in this professional space certainly, and you would have seen a lot of youngsters being very inspired by interacting with their heroes and being involved in programs that they establish. Just tell us a little bit about Bryan himself in terms of how excited he was to get formally involved with this on the ground.
Gee, Jean, for years, Bryan wanted to give back personally, but as we all know, he believes in excellence, and he's got a high, integrity, and he, I think how I got to know him was within the Laureus relationship, and back then he dedicated his volunteering time to Laureus, but always had the idea of maybe doing something on his own where he can directly interact with these young people. So needless to say, when we came back home and he actually stood in Cape Town and welcomed the leaders, it was extremely emotional. He shared some personal challenges that he's had in the past, and not to take away from what has happened in the UK, because it was an exceptional program and it had just as much traction, but something was extremely different when Bryan stood in front of the local 8 leaders in Stellenbosch at the Stellenbosch Academy of Sport, where he had trained as a 7s player and lived for a week. So needless to say, Jean, it was, and I don't want to say too much and commit to too much, because we just launched 2 weeks ago. And that's the beauty of these things. So Bryan needs to go on a journey with his rugby career, whatever looks like, what his further career looks like. And it's quite awesome to see that he launches this at the same time as a big potential crossroads he's in. So it's very exciting. I think everyone is a bit vulnerable. It's going to be lots of challenges, but it's really sincere, and I really look forward to seeing what Bryan's growth in this industry, because it's the complete opposite industry to what he's been into. Yeah.
You mentioned what the youngsters have to go back and do in their local communities now. What does the rest of the year look like for them in terms of the actual program itself, in terms of its framework?
Yeah. So that's very important. Because so many people start foundations and so many people start projects and it's a great thing, because people want to do good, and it's beautiful, but sometimes it can be kind of destructive instead of constructive. So ideally, we would like to work with the organizations that these young people come from. So if they come from the skate crew in Lavender Hill, or they come from Ways for Change, or if they come from Coolplay or Living Legends or school in Plutusville, we would like to work with that community specifically and see what is needed for that community or project, or how can we work with that project with this young person. So, but not taking away from this young person's dream and that his or her skills that you got in Team Habana, but in a way trying to be an example how everyone can collaborate and fit in, because if everyone just spins off in different wheels in different directions, it's actually counterproductive. But kind of to decentralize the whole concept of community give back and sport for development, and saying if we actually help our organization and and work within current systems and not recreate new systems, then we'll see you might not get the ego boost that you'll get if it's your little project that you start, but in the long-term goals and gains, if you're really doing it for the right reasons and to impact for the community, then. But like I said, it's beginning. The leaders just got back about 2 weeks ago, and we're in the process of designing what their next steps look like. But that will be hand in hand with their projects that they come from.
And a final word then in this episode from the man himself, still tearing up trees in the top 14 in France.
Getting an opportunity to reflect back at the start of the Team Habana Cape Town cohort was really inspiring. I think to have seen those 8 young adults from communities within the Western Cape come together and get sort of grilled through an intense program was really fantastic. To see their development, to see their aspirations and their dreams to go on and make a massive impact in the community was truly inspiring. I think for me that has been given the privilege of being a rugby player and doing so much in my life, to be able to see these youngsters who are getting opportunity to learn and do something with their lives is truly great. So a wonderful 3 days, obviously with the help of Rob Bernardi and the team from the Stellenbosch Academy of Sport. We were really privileged to be able to be hosted at some world-class facilities that made the residential really impactful. We've been going for 2 years in London now, and being South African, I've always had that urge to want to get Cape Town started. So looking forward to the young adults' development and growth over the next few months, and looking forward to see how they develop and make a massive impact in their communities. Wonderful start in South Africa, and hopefully much bigger things to come.
Thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you've been inspired by the work that these rugby legends, in conjunction with the projects that they're involved with, are doing. Our next episode will be coming to you from Monaco and the Laureus World Sports Awards. What an event, as always, that promises to be.
Good evening and welcome to the Laureus World Sports Awards 2017.
And the Laureus Academy have chosen Michael Phelps.
Someone's going to have to untie her from her seat, Simone Biles.
To receive the award, please welcome founder of Waves for Change, Tim Coningbear.
And the Laureus Academy have chosen Beatrice Vier.
And the Academy have chosen Nico Rosberg.
The Refugee Olympic Team.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leicester City.
And the Laureus Academy have chosen the Chicago Cubs.
And the winner is the Barcelona Under-12 team.
And the Laureus Academy have chosen Usain Bolt.
If you have any pre-event predictions, then be sure to participate in our social media polls rolling out over the coming days. Remember, Laureus South Africa is on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. We can't wait to hear from you. Until next time, cheers.